I ain't afraid of no ghost. Hey guys, welcome back to Pop Culture with Pat. Today we're talking about the new Ghostbusters movie, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. When the discovery of an ancient artifact unleashes an evil force, Ghostbusters new and old must unite to protect their home and save the world from a second ice age. So if you guys were around this channel when Afterlife came out, you know that I really loved that movie. It was one of my favorite movies of the year when it came out. So naturally, Frozen Empire was one of my most anticipated movies of 2024. And so this film picks up a few years after the events of Afterlife, and now they're back living in New York, specifically in the firehouse, and they've been busting ghosts as a family for a little while now. And one of my favorite things in this movie was getting to see Paul Rudd specifically as a Ghostbuster. I just think the guy is a perfect fit for the role. I mean, it's almost impossible not to like the guy. He just has this natural charm to him. And of course, he always brings the comedy to any role that requires it. And this is no different for sure. And then you have McKenna Grace's character, Phoebe, and she's kind of struggling because she feels like she's part of the team, but she's still technically a kid, and so her mom and Gary, they kind of want to keep her out of trouble, and so naturally she's a little frustrated by that. One of the things that I was looking forward to most in this film, or at least was hoping that they would do, is kind of explore some new territory for Ghostbusters. You know, we had Afterlife, was kind of reintroducing everyone to the franchise, introducing a couple new characters, but here I wanted to see them tackle some new ground, and they definitely do that, which I was pretty happy. So we get to see Winston, he comes back, so you do have the old characters coming back here, but he's kind of in charge of everything now, which was really nice to see. And they had this new lab where they're actually studying different ghosts, which I thought was a cool aspect. We also had a new villain in this film, which I was really looking forward to, and the villain kind of has their own history and their lore that we get to learn about. And we also find out that there was like kind of a society before the Ghostbusters, almost the Ghostbusters before the Ghostbusters, and it was fun to kind of learn about that little bit of history as well. And then we also have several new characters that are introduced in this film, including Kumail Nanjiani, he has ties to the villains in this film. And then we also have Emily Lind, who she plays a character that ends up interacting with Phoebe quite a bit. And she was probably like one of my favorite new introductions into this film. She also played Snake by Andy in the Dr. Sleep film, which is one of my favorite horror films of the past decade. If you guys are a fan of the channel, you know this. But so I was really excited to see her have this role, and I thought the pairing of those two, the whole concept behind that was really interesting. And while there's definitely some new aspects that are explored here in the film, there's plenty for the original Ghostbuster fans to really enjoy. And don't get me wrong, there's definitely some stuff in here that I think is kind of just in the film for nostalgia's sake. It didn't really bother me, but I can understand. I know I've seen a lot of people saying that they were kind of bothered that certain aspects or certain things were just in there just to kind of say like, hey, remember this? But at least for me and the audience that I saw it with was a pretty full house. Everyone seemed to be enjoying it, so it didn't really bother me, but I can understand if that's something that you have a problem with the film. So you get to see things like Slimer is back in this movie, so I got this popcorn bucket here. You get to see some of the other ghosts from the other movies, and then we see more of the original Ghostbusters in this movie this time around, specifically Stance and Winston. It was really nice to see more of, or get to see Ernie Hudson do a little bit more this time around. So I thought it was really cool that he was kind of like in charge of everything now, all the operations and everything like that. And then Stance, he kind of goes off on this little adventure with Phoebe and podcast, trying to kind of learn more about what this orb is all about. So they had their things to do in the story. It also just felt really nice to be back in New York City after we kind of took a break with the last film. So coming back to the city, getting to see things like the firehouse, the library, different locations like that. So I also appreciated just kind of coming back to the big city this time around. Also get to see a little bit more of the family dynamic with the Spenglers here, and Paul Rudd's character Gary, he's trying to kind of walk that line of being a father figure for the kids, but at the same time trying to be their friend as well. And so it's kind of, there's some comedic aspects to seeing him trying to walk that line. And McKenna Grace, once again, as Phoebe, she's a standout for me for sure. She's one of, if not my favorite new character that's been introduced to the franchise. I really love her. I mean, she's been amazing in pretty much all of her roles. She's definitely an up-and-comer for sure. I can't wait to see what she does with the rest of her career, but I really liked what she got to do in this movie too. And I thought the film did a really good job of blending the humor as well as including some, spooky moments that make a Ghostbusters film. So I really enjoyed that. I love the design and the look of our villain here. I thought he looked really cool and menacing. And like I said, I saw this with a packed crowd last night. It was Friday night, and yeah, everyone in the theater seemed to be really enjoying this. People were laughing when everyone was getting ready to leave. I could hear people talking, and they were saying, I love that. You saw people dressed up in the Ghostbusters costume. So it was definitely a Ghostbusters crowd, but it seemed like the fans that went there really enjoyed it, and that includes myself. Now, is it a perfect movie? No. There's definitely some things that I have some issues with in the film specifically. So like our villain, I wish we got to spend a little bit more time with him in the whole Frozen Empire aspect of the movie. I felt like the ending was just a little bit rushed. So I wish we would have got a little bit more of that earlier on in the movie. I didn't think the film dragged. I just wish we kind of got more of that. And then just as far as some of the characters go, specifically for Finn Wolfhard and Celeste O'Connor, I just feel like they didn't really have a lot to do in this movie specifically, and they were almost just brought back because they were in the last movie, unfortunately, which sucks because I do like their characters. I just feel like they didn't really have a lot to do. And there were some other characters in here too that maybe necessarily didn't have quite as much or weren't involved in the main plot line. So that was a little disappointing for sure. But overall, I still had a lot of fun with Frozen Empire. It was a really good time at the movies, and I think it's a solid addition to the Ghostbusters franchise. As far as the score goes, I'm going to give this an 8.3 out of 10. It's definitely something that I'm going to be adding to my collection. I can't wait to watch it again. Like I said, I really enjoyed it. It seems to be getting a lot of hate, specifically from the critics, which I don't know. Personally, for me, I completely disagree. I could see some of the issues, but it's like a 40-something, I believe. I completely disagree with that. But yeah, I'm curious to hear what your guys' thoughts are. So let me know down below in the comments. If you guys are new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button as well as the bell button next to it. That way you get notifications for all my new videos. Give this video a thumbs up. And as always, guys, please make sure to check back for more Pop Culture with Pat.